Well, you find us today at the Everything Electric show, XL down in London. I'm Dave, this is Dave Takes It On. Now, I'm not sure if someone's been doing a bit of research into me and my driving and the cars I chose, but I've come onto this particular stand and everything I owned as a kid is here. And this is amazing. We've got a Mini, my very first car, Mini Countryman. This was the one with it was like the estate version and had the sliding windows, drawer string handles, not string, cable handles. Here's the latest Mini. It's actually back to a normal size Mini, not the huge monstrosities you see today. Minis, just cars generally have grown so big. This is the original size Mini. And I drove one of these for years, the Countryman. It had an 850cc engine, and it was great. I could get 40 miles to the gallon on a run. Tank only held 6 gallons. Lovely car. So what have they done to this one? The first thing you notice, 100% electric. So fully electric. And here we are, we're looking here, and we've got a lot of the workings here. So battery, this is where the engine would have been, and this is where the weight of the car would have been. So it makes perfect sense to put a lot of the weight of the battery equipment right up here as well. So this is all the inverters and everything, and some of the battery gear as well. So coming back, we can see back here,
this is a new one.
You still have a boot. And that for a small car is a sensible sized boot. So this is quite a usable car now. And if we do look on the inside, no, we're not allowed in that one. It looks very much like a traditional Mini with the round dials, steering wheel and everything. So fantastic car. And I lived with one of these for several years and it was brilliant. Went all over the country. Used to do surfing trips in it with the boards on the roof and 3 or 4 of us on the inside. But in time we grew out of this, and one of my next cars was a Volkswagen Beetle. Now, I have to say it was one of the very early ones, and mine was the 6-volt version. 12 volts was a luxury in the early VW Beetle range. So mine was 6 volts, appalling headlights, but everything else about it was fine. They are pretty much waterproof. You're supposed to be able to drive them into a river and you float off down the river, totally sealed. Had one of these for quite some time. This obviously, once again, all electric. Got some fancy wheels on it. We got the charging port here, and it looks like Type 2 only, so it's not going to be the fastest of chargers, but it's probably not got a huge battery either. They're going to put a very nice sunroof on this one, and then of course round the back we've got some of the gubbins. This is inverters and controllers and high voltage, low voltage, everything else, and I'm assuming the battery is very much up in the front. Over time I outgrew that and I went on to the next one. And I actually had a Volkswagen Caravannette. It was this particular version. It was the full windscreen rather than the split windscreen. Had one of those as well. And I remember the number plate, JYY389K. Amazing how these things stick in your mind. But this was great. We took this one down to the south of France, down to Biarritz, on a surfing trip. I'm a keen surfer. Lived in Cornwall for about 30 years of my life. Very keen surfer. Slowing down a bit now. But this was great. It wasn't the lifting roof one, so you just had basically 2 beds, which you fold down, use a table and everything. But you've got a table, little cooker and everything, so it was absolutely great for that. But then when we went down to Biarritz in southwest France, we had roof racks on, all surfboards, camping gear up there. Whale of a time. That must have been, I don't know, very early 80s or very late 70s. Can't remember the exact date. But spent a lot of time in this, and fabulous car as well. Once again, it's gone electric. These are fabulous nowadays. And this one we can't get into as easily. But again, all the stuff's around the back. Charging. Isn't it great to see some of these classic cars back in action again, but now 100% electric? I think so anyhow. And of course, being a rep at times and went to visit various places, we would fly to some customers, classic black cab. Used many of these, London, Manchester, iconic cabs. And they've actually kept very much the design of it and the style of it. You can see it just looks very much like a standard London hackney cab. Nothing really to distinguish it from any other cab on the road. A bit more modern in style, but it's definitely a black cab. And yet, look at that. We have the charging. Now that, if I'm not mistaken, is the CHAdeMO. Why would that be CHAdeMO? Yep, it's CHAdeMO. Okay, so the first thing is, this is the London Taxi Company. One thing you should know about London Taxi Company, it's owned by a Chinese company. Anyway, that's just the way things go. But it's fabulous to see these. CHAdeMO has advantages, go into it another time, but there is a reason why some people will fit them. It's mainly because CHAdeMO is automatically V2G, vehicle to grid. So these have more flexibility than CCS2. Don't know if that's a feature that they are relying on, but that is just a fact. So what you have now is your cabs are going electric as well. There's a regulation which says you can't sell new petrol or diesel cars after 2035. These are going in fact this year, some of the new ones now have to start becoming electric. So this is going to happen faster. And in response to that, there've been a load of what we call hubs being built specifically for not only the black cabs, the taxis, but also all the Uber drivers. There's so many people just getting a deal on a Tesla or Hyundai or Kia and just instantly using them. They lease them and then they run those as Uber cabs and they are absolutely fabulous. And so with an Uber driver, you do have your periods sitting around, and during those periods, if you've got any sense, you just top the battery up wherever you are so that any time you get a fare, you're able to go straight away. But all of the EVs today, whatever you're using for Uber, you're not going to use a Renault 5, for example, as an Uber. You wouldn't get anyone in the back. But any of the cars today, decent size, like the Teslas, like the Hyundais, like the maybe Mercedes EQA, with a decent size. They have a range typically well over 200 miles. And we did an article, a video recently about how many miles a typical taxi driver does in a day. And the conclusion was, out of a massive survey down in East Sussex, it was less than 100 miles a day. So most of the taxis and most of the Uber drivers don't do 100 miles a day. Now, I know some of them share cars. So when one finishes their 8 or 10 hour shift, they hand the car over to someone else. But still, you've got 100 miles during a shift, and you've got 200-mile range. I cannot believe within that whole shift of 8-10 hours that you can't find somewhere for 20 minutes to go and have a pee break, have a coffee, plug your car in. These things today, 15 minutes, you add 100 miles. So whatever you've done in the last shift, you can replace it while you're having a cup of coffee. It just comes down to planning and common sense. Now, no, there is a firm in North Wales, I'm going to get around to seeing them, and you can buy any classic car you want, anything, and you can just take it to them and they will electrify it. Well, not electrify, they'll electrify the motors. They take everything out of it, strip it right the way down, and they will then custom design the battery and everything else to go into it to try and retain some of the original features like a decent boot, but also to try and get the balance right. You don't want all the weight on the front or all the weight on the back, so they've got to be balanced. So an awful lot more cars are coming back into use for as full EVs, which we thought long ago they'd reached the end of their lifespan. So the Mini's a classic. That's not your modern Mini. Most of you looking at that will not recognize that as a Mini. That's what we used to drive way back in the 60s when I started driving, late 60s, early 70s. They were tiny little cars. Now, this just gives you an idea of what's going on. And the first thing I would point out is that in my car, Tesla Model S, the battery is about 8 feet long and 4 feet wide. This one is a tiny little battery. So we're not talking about long-range road trips in these, but these are suitable for installing into classic cars. That will go into any Mini. This equipment goes into the front or wherever it is. So these are actually quite, I say, easily adaptable. It is quite possible to adapt these to just about any car. One of my classic cars I had was a Triumph Herald convertible, beautiful in white. Oh, would that today, first of all, it'd be worth a fortune, but secondly, if you could electrify it like this, you've got the best of all worlds. So what we have here, we have all the, this is inverters, switchgear, controllers, everything is here. Plus here you've got your motor, so your drive shafts will come out here for driving the car. And then at the back you've got your battery. So lovely laid out, and with the size of that, that is pretty much transportable into any car. And this exact same firm that's bringing all these classic cars back to life, they've decided to take a modern car and take it back to the 70s when the rage for everyone was convertibles. Look at this, Tesla Model 3 convertible. What more could you ask? Well, you see here they're going for maximum efficiency. The wheel covers will give you much better aerodynamics. That's why they talk so much about wheels these days. They do make a huge difference. Not only the size, whether they're 18, 19, 20 or 21 inch, but also the covers over them, and very much going on to that will add a couple of miles onto your range. Everything's streamlined. That's why handles on most EVs retract into the bodywork. Those handles no longer produce any drag. One of the bugbears of the industry is wing mirrors or door mirrors, and they are still a legal requirement. You can't get away from them. There are now electronic ones where you have just a tiny little camera which goes here, provides no wind turbulence or disturbance or drag, but will give you a view forward, and you can see it on the screen inside. They're not legal. You still have to physically have door mirrors or wing mirrors these days. This one obviously has been stiffened up dramatically. As soon as you take the roof off, you lose a lot of structural integrity, so that has to be replaced. So there we go, we've got bracing there. And other than that, nice paint job, nice colour, but does that stand out? Yeah. So here we are on day 2. It's just about to open, so very, very quiet at the moment. So we take the chance to get to see some of these vehicles without crowds. It'll get busy later on. Standing here outside the 2C EV, and let me just put a bit of history on this. We get so many comments about, oh, it only takes 5 minutes to charge. Oh, it's a convenience of petrol or diesel or whatever. And all of these commenters seem to forget the fact that before we went EV, every one of us was a petrol or diesel driver. In my case, I was actually in the trade. And back in the 80s, I was a sales manager for a Citroen dealership down in Cornwall. So I know what I'm talking about in the industry, and know an awful lot about cars as well. This was one car that was particularly relevant to me. These at the time we had, a long time ago now, best part of 40 years now. But this was, the range was the 2CV and the Diane. Diane's just a slightly larger version. Then we had the GS just came in, and the CX. So that was the range at the time. And we had, I remember one particular customer, always had 2 cars, one for himself, one for his wife. He always went for the top of the range, CX Prestige. But his wife, he said, any car you want out of the Citroen dealership. She chose a 2CV. Lovely. But she wanted it customized. And so it was put into the paint shop, came out with all different color panels and different stripes and metallic paint and everything. But these are great little cars. It's 2-cylinder, air-cooled engine, front-wheel drive. There's nothing to them. Suspension is, yeah, shall we say, soft. And these were designed so that you could, in France, go as a farmer with someone in the back holding all the eggs, drive across ploughed fields to the market without breaking any eggs. So the suspension, ultra soft. Being 2-cylinder, very, very economical. There's no real weight in these. And so we actually had a challenge at one time. It was done for charity, where we got use of a disused airfield. It's Prydanig down in Cornwall near Helston. And we took one of our 2CVs, and the challenge was people were challenged to drive around a specific track in a 2CV, standard 2CV, and see if anyone could get anywhere near 100 miles per gallon. So they would be out for 10, 20, 30 minutes, whatever. Tank would be topped up before they started. When they got back in, top it up again, work out the exact miles per gallon. None of us got anywhere near 100 miles per gallon. Interesting to note that when we did that challenge, there was practically no such thing as a home computer. There was certainly no smartphones about. Now, in the meantime, over the last 40 years, computers, TVs, smartphones, virtually all the technology has rocketed onwards, and yet cars today, they still can't do 100 miles per gallon as an average figure. I know if you're coasting downhill, your gauge will show you're doing over 100 miles per gallon, but take it over a month or a 3-month period, cars don't do that. UK average is about 46, 47 miles per gallon. So all of you out there say, my car does 200 miles per gallon cheaper than EVs. No, they don't. But this is a fabulous addition. This is the 2CV. It looks absolutely standard, and that's the amazing thing. That would have been the petrol filler, and it's actually been designed to look a little bit like the petrol filler. It's obviously, not sure we're allowed into that. It's obviously not going to be rapid or ultra rapid charging for this, probably just a type 2, but it's going to be a fairly small battery as well. I'm not going to open it up because the stand's not open yet, but everything has been fitted in here, and it looks just like a standard car. So seating, fairly standard. Engine would normally be in there, that will probably be full, but there's nothing on the outside other than the badge that would indicate that this is a 100% electric car. Now, I'm not suggesting anyone would take this on a road trip, although mentioning that, this is a special one because this is going on the Great Road Trip, and this is part 2. And they're looking for sponsors, but you can get your name on it. But the second leg of the journey is from Venice to Vancouver in an electric 2C EV. Now that is some journey, because I'm assuming they're going to go right the way up through Europe, and then somehow they're going to get across to America, ferry or whatever. But Vancouver, that's a fair old distance. They've already done the first stage of it. This is, that's interesting. That says Venice to Vancouver, that says Milan to Vancouver. Anyway, they're aiming for May or early June 2026, going to one of the top research centres in Europe for Kennedy disease in Milan, and then on the way back they're going through Austria, Italy, Switzerland, and eventually ending up in Milan. So if people say EVs are not good for road trips, yeah, you might have to do a little bit of adapting, but this is absolutely amazing. Now I walked past this and I actually stopped and came back because this says universal battery pack 55 kilowatt hours. I've got a Tesla Model S and it's got an 85 kilowatt hour battery, so about half as big again. Only my battery is about 8 feet long and about 4 feet wide or 5 feet wide and about that deep. Huge battery. That is remarkably small for that sort of power battery. And of course, if you were to split that into 2 components, they would mount side by side and they would fit into an awful lot of cars. Technology is changing so fast, and some of the big old batteries from even 5 or 10 years ago are just out, and everything's getting much more compact, much more efficient. So that's about it. We're coming to the end of our visit. We've met loads of our viewers. They've all come up and said hello. Thank you very much to every one of you. We've been talking to people on stands, been meeting with CEOs and executives and directors and all sorts of things. Been seeing loads of new inventions, some lovely cars coming on the market later this year. So it's been a fantastic time. So thank you very much for watching. I'm Dave.